So, hello, good morning, good day, good afternoon, good night, whenever you're watching this. Hello, I'm Leo, and today I'm going to talk to you about the Mayan culture. So, in the state of Quintana Roo, there are countless archaeological sites that will make you relive history. The Maya, no. The Mayan civilization, or Mayan culture, was one of the main civilizations that developed in ancient Mesoamerica. This culture is very notable for its elaborate writing and numerical systems, and for the use of the calendar, the Mayan calendar, as well as for its impressive art and architecture. The ancient Maya are well known for their writings, a large part of which can be read as they were deciphered after being found, as well as for their advanced mathematical and astronomical and calendarical calculations. So, the Mayan culture inhabited the region of tropical forests like present-day Guatemala, Honduras, and Yucatan. The peninsula of Yucatan. And the history of this culture is divided into three main periods: the pre-classic, the classic, and post-classic. These were preceded by the archaic period, in which the first human settlements were established and development of agriculture began. So, the Mayan is a culture that is very, very ancient. And modern studies regard these periods as arbitrary divisions of the Maya chronology, rather than being indicative of the cultural evolution of the Maya or their direct decline. Depending on the author, the definitions of the start and end dates of the periods can vary up even to a century. So, this culture is so ancient that we don't know exactly when they developed. And starting in the early pre-classic, Mayan society was characterized by a strict division between elite and commoners. And with population growth over time, various sectors of society became increasingly specialized and political. So, organization became increasingly complex, very difficult to do. And by the late classic, when the population had grown considerably, and hundreds of cities were connected in a complex web of political hierarchies, the segment of the wealthy multiplied in Mayan society. And the middle class may have developed and this was composed of artisans, low-ranking officials, and priests. There were also merchants and soldiers. Commoners included peasants, servants, laborers, and slaves. According to indigenous accounts, land was the communal property of noble houses or clans, like the thing we know now as families. And the clans held that the land was owned by the ancestors of the same clan that they belonged to. And the links between the land and the ancestors were reinforced by the burial of the dead within the residential complexes of each clan. So there were families, rich families, poor families, middle-class families, and the Mayans, that's why I admire them, they already had an organization that we have nowadays. And, the economy in the Mayan culture. The trade was a key component to Mayan society and essential to the development of the Mayan civilization. There were cities that grew to be the most important, generally controlled access to vital commercial goods or transportation routes. These cities they had names. Cities such as Caminaljuyu and Cumarcash in Guatemala Highlands. Also El Tazumal in El Salvador, and variously controlled access to obsidian deposits at different times in Mayan history. And you know, the most important cities in the north of the Yucatan Peninsula controlled access to salt sources during the post-classic. And the Mayans were involved in a flourishing slave trade in the Mesoamerican region. So this was something good and something bad for the slaves, you know. So the economy and the people, the society here, there were also merchants, and little is known about these merchants, but although they depicted in Mayan pottery in fine noble clothing, and they were this way. For this reason, it is known that at least some merchants were members of the elite, because they had good clothes, they were fine like the royalty in UK. And it is also known that the Mayan nobility participated in long-distance trade expeditions during the period of contact with the Españoles. I know, Spaniards, yeah. And most of the merchants belonged to the middle class and were mainly engaged in local and regional trade rather than the prestigious long-distance trade. Rather, it was exclusive domain of the elite. Commercial travel in dangerous foreign territories was likened to passage through the underworld. The patron deities of the merchants were two gods. They have two main gods of the underworld carrying backpacks. And when merchants went out of travel, they were heavily armed and painted black, just like their patron deities. And now, the end of this culture, well, I have to tell you, I admire this culture very, very much, because they were amazingly smart. They were super smart, and sadly, the end of this culture was pretty curious. Around 850 before Christ, after centuries of prosperity and rule, the Maya began to abandon their great cities. They began to move out to different places, and in less than 200 years, civilization was reduced to a fraction of its former glory. And this was the death of one of the most glorious and biggest cultures in the modern world. So this is it. I think I'd like to tell you a lot, much more about the Mayan culture and a lot of more cultures here in Mexico, but yeah, you know. So thanks for watching, and oh yeah, I have to tell you before we finish, I only have 2 questions to do. So the first one: where was the Mayan culture developed? Dale pausa, Leo, dale pausa, que contesten. So they answered right. I have another question to do. When did the Mayan culture ended? Dale pausa. So I see you're very smart, huh? Well, I have nothing else to add to this conversation. I think you're pretty smart. So with this, I'll end this conversation, this video. So thanks for watching, thanks for having your time, and see you later. Bye.